Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 14 of The Kickabout with me, Chris, and Dan and Fran are here once again.
Hi.
So, guys, Skype is going to have to continue.
Yeah.
Annoying, but you know what Bojo says sticks.
It is what it is.
So, yeah, it looks like we're sticking this way for the foreseeable. Supposedly, there's this 2-week review coming in, but I'd be surprised if we get to see each other this side of Christmas, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
So, which is a shame because you're not going to be able to come over and see our lovely Christmas tree, Fran.
That's literally what I'm gutted about. I saw a picture of it though, and it looks delightful.
You're not disappointed about coming and seeing me, just want to see the tree.
No, just the tree. Maybe Annabelle.
Okay, right. Right, before we get on to the rest of the show, just wanted to mention, obviously, we know we ran on a bit last week with the podcast, so we're going to try and rein it back in a bit, get to sort of our hour and a quarter mark. So bear with us on that if we do slip over again, but we're trying to bring it back in. And so we start with some sad news. Papa Bouba Diop, affectionately known as the Wardrobe, I love that name. He passed away at the age of 42 following a long illness. Most of us will remember for him at Portsmouth, but he did have obviously spells at Fulham and also at West Ham during their promotion campaign in 2011-2012, although wasn't a first team player or first choice player, but he did play a number of games for us. But obviously he was part of the 2008 FA Cup winning side for Portsmouth, so he is well loved there and will be remembered fondly. So yeah, thoughts out to his family and friends. It's 42, such a young age, so shit. So yes, right. Let's move along. Dan, I've got a new jingle for you.
I'm looking forward to it.
I've got your own. So you've not heard this, just to clarify.
I haven't.
You gave me a suggestion, and I said, okay, leave it with me. I'll see what I can do. And this is what I've come up with. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Dan the Stat Man.
Is that you?
That is me, yeah. I actually Seb this evening was sat there watching Hey Dougie on Netflix, and I was like, babe, you need to pause the TV quick. I need to do something.
I love that.
That's great.
Anyway, without further ado, Dan, tell us your
so proud of himself. I can hear it in your voice. You're so proud of yourself.
That was, I'd like to say that was one take as well.
That's it.
That was one take.
I'll give you that. That's good. Right, you ready?
Go for it.
So the stats were it was a rubbish week for the stats, to be honest. A lot of them were sort of, the answers were dating back to like 1905 and stuff like that. And I thought you're probably not going to guess which player scored such and such back in 1905. So I've gone for a more recent one, which just happened to be a Man United one, unfortunately. So Bruno Fernandes is the 4th Manchester United player to score in 5 consecutive away games in the Premier League. Can you tell me who the other 3 are? I can give you some dates. So the first one was 2003, the second was 2013, and the third was 2017.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have a stab later, but I mean, that'd be pulling names out of the air, that one.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a good thing that question's not in the quiz later with Fran. Excellent. Right. As always, we will get to that later. And also, just after the break, we are going to have news of our Christmas giveaway. Ooh, I need a jingle for that as well, don't I?
Yeah.
So, Southampton against Man United, first game we're going to talk about. Cracking game. I've given you a bit of a breakdown, haven't I? We haven't spoken about United in a few weeks.
No, we haven't. No.
But that's 3 wins in a row now. So are we in the middle of another Ole Gunnar Solskjaer hot streak?
Yeah, but it's not like convincing wins, to be honest, is it? It's not like we're
so hard to please, honestly.
I know I'm so negative. I think I'm realistic.
Well, it's like on the pundits were like, it's like the Manchester of Manchester United of old or something like that. And I was like, is it though? Because I don't think they would have gone 2-0 down and then
Well, I
had to
think
like
it's
fought their way back.
last minute goals that like Man United are famous for
No,
scoring.
but like
last-minute
before that,
winners.
they were saying like when they were bringing it back, they were saying it.
Right.
And I was just thinking, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure Alex Ferguson would agree with that one.
No.
But obviously, as you mentioned, United had to work for it. A pretty cheap near post header, you would say, from Bednarak, and then another cracking free kick from James Ward-Prowse. I presume at this point you were thinking the worst, Dan, when you were 2-0 down.
Yeah, especially at half time, I just thought, here we go again. I messaged Pete because Pete messaged me saying, can you do me a favour and beat Southampton? I was like, you're banking on the wrong team, to be honest.
You're backing the wrong horse. I mean, in fairness, United, they weren't playing badly up to that point. I mean, if it wasn't for some outstanding goalkeeping from McCarthy in the Southampton goal, you could have easily had at least one, maybe even 2 goals at the break. So it wasn't, the scoreline perhaps wasn't a completely fair reflection on that first half.
No, but at the same time, you don't get goals unless you take your chances. Very like Michael Owen thing to say there, but that our strikers seem to waste a lot of chances.
Yeah, I mean, Sheffield United will have something to say about that later as well. But half-time comes, obviously Ollie makes a couple of changes. De Gea was replaced at half-time for Henderson. He's having a scan, I believe, on an injury. I think it was his knee. So not sure what the prognosis on that yet. So it could be a little run for Dean Henderson in the side, which could be good. We've been long calling for him to get a run either in Man United or out on loan somewhere else. But obviously the big change was Cavani coming on for Greenwood. He went on to set one up for Fernandes and then scored the other 2. Is this the Cavani that you want to see, Dan? I mean, I know you were not exactly on board with the transfer in the first place, but if he keeps putting in performances like that, then surely this is going to be a good signing for United.
Yeah, I won't lie and say that I was on board with the transfer the entire time, because I wasn't. I think it was a bit of a last-minute decision, but yeah, if he changes games like that, then the only thing I would say, I don't know if he would last an entire game, especially in the Premier League. But if we can have him as a super sub and he can do stuff like, it's almost a bit like a Fellaini when we bring Fellaini on to score like a last-minute header type thing. It's just a very different player to what we've got at the club, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, Cavani's always been a bit of an all-action striker. He's always worked extremely hard off the ball. Him and Suarez have been very much the pivotal point for Uruguay, the national side. But I mean, I look at the way in which he took both of those goals, and I don't see another player in United's team that will move off the ball in the way that he did. If I take the first goal, for example, when I can't remember who it was who took the shot, it might have been Wan-Bissaka, maybe.
Bruno.
Was it Bruno?
Yeah.
So Bruno hits the shot, and if you watch the crowd of players, literally everyone stands still. Not a single person moves except for Cavani. He's the only one that, as a striker's instinct, sees an opportunity and thinks, I'm just going to go in here and see what happens. And obviously, reacts extremely quickly and heads the ball in. And I just don't see any other number 9 for United or anybody playing in that number 9 role for United who would have that level of impact.
No, I mean, that is what Cavani did, is literally the definition of goal poacher.
Yes, absolutely. But just that proper number 9 performance. The second goal, I mean, again, the movement is deadly. As a centre back, you just can't deal with that. You can't track that, because it's 1 minute he's walking, the next minute he's just bolted. He's just absolutely gone.
He's a lot quicker than I thought he was, actually. I didn't realise he was as quick as he is.
Yeah, not bad for a sort of, what is he, 34, whatever he is now?
Yeah,
33, 34. So, yeah, very, very good. And this was picked up on Match of the Day about Southampton, that they didn't really get going in the second half. And it was highlighted by a statistic that showed that Southampton have only conceded 4 in the first half of games, which is the second best in the Premier League. But in the second half of games, they've conceded 12, which is the second worst in the league. Is this fitness? Is it psychological? Where do you kind of come down on this?
Well, I think they were sort of saying that Southampton seems like bolt out of the gate, don't they? They're like sprinters rather than marathon runners.
Like Duracell bunnies.
Yeah.
They run out of battery.
And yeah, so maybe it's down to both, but maybe fitness. And also they probably don't have the subs that they can bring on to sort of bring the game back or change the game like teams like United and Liverpool and that do.
Yeah, I mean, Southampton's manager, Hasenhüttl, he actually alluded to that at the end. He said, look, at the end of the day, you know, I'm paraphrasing here, but he effectively said, you know, they can bring on people like Cavani at halftime, and obviously we're not able to do that. Is there a psychological element in terms to Southampton are often finding themselves in front in winning positions in games? Is it a case of that they're just taking their foot off the gas, or is that a bit too simplistic view on it?
Yeah, I think that could be the case, especially when you're 2-0 up at half time. I think it's quite easy to just assume that you're going to win the game. And then as soon as the opposition scores and, you know, 1 or 2, then you start to almost panic. And I think that's obviously takes quite a lot of psychological towards it.
On the balance of play, would you say that United deserved the win despite the fact they had to leave it very late?
Yeah, I mean, I think Southampton deserved to win the first half and United deserved to win the second half, and we scored 3, they scored 2. So I think overall we deserved to win the game if you based it on 2 halves.
Gosh, that's very Michael Owen of you. Love that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about Arsenal against Wolves. It was a game that was marred by a horrible clash of heads between David Luiz and Raul Jimenez. I'd heard that there'd been a clash of heads. I think I read it on Sky Sports and read that it was quite a sickening impact. And I was actually very surprised the Match Today showed the initial contact. They didn't obviously show any close-ups of it. But the fact that there's no fans, I think, made it even worse. I mean, the sound was just sickening.
So sick.
We missed it to start with, and then Fran asked me to rewind it, and then we ended up paying attention to it, and we were both eating at the same time. Felt so sick.
Horrible.
It was horrible. It was like somebody had clapped. It was that kind of clean, like noise.
It's just crack. You just awful.
So yeah, it very much looked like Jimenez was knocked out cold on the floor. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I was amazed that David Luiz was allowed to continue here.
Well, yes. I mean, they made a big thing of that on Match of the Day too, didn't they? That they were very adamant that he shouldn't have been able to continue playing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in the situation, David Luiz was the one that came in at pace. So obviously, he in that situation is going to come off better because he's the one who's the aggressor, for want of a better description, in that challenge. But the fact that by the time they'd finished bandaging his head back up, it was already bleeding. It was already spilling out of the side. So it was clearly a very, very deep wound. And I'm sorry, if you clash heads that hard, you're not going to feel brilliant. So I think that was a big mistake to leave him on, personally.
I'm surprised the referee
didn't notice the blood.
Well, yeah, and didn't stop them. I thought the referee would have probably... I don't know if the referees are allowed to say that they can or can't play. Maybe they're not allowed to. I don't know. But...
Well, I mean, you know, Mikel Arteta after the game was very clear in the fact that he said that all of the concussion protocol and head injury protocol stuff was followed. They decided that he was fine. But when we're in a time where heading the ball now is being questioned in these sort of ongoing discussions around the long-term effects of the action of heading the ball and the links that it has with dementia, it does seem crazy to me that you wouldn't just, you know, err on the side of caution and just say, you know, that was a fucking big impact. There is such a thing as delayed onset concussion as well. You don't always get it straight away. And you just think, for the sake of a half a game of football, you think, you know what, just come off. Let's just, you know, let's play it safe here.
And you sort of 80 to 90% of your players are going to say that they're absolutely fine and are going to want to carry on playing the game, aren't they, no matter what?
Yeah. So, yeah, it was not good. Jimenez suffered a fractured skull and has had surgery and apparently is doing well. So we wish him all the best and a speedy recovery. And I'm sure Wolves will want him back as well because he is obviously a big player for them. Right, let's get to the game. So I'm quite happy to hold my hand up here at this moment because it wasn't so long ago that I said that Arteta was doing quite a good job on the quiet. I think it's very much time to review that statement and backtrack a bit. They are a bit of an enigma at the moment, aren't they? Because they're doing quite well in Europe. They seem to be quite reliable and winning games. But in the league, they just look so devoid of creativity. Individual mistakes are now happening. A lack of individual mistakes, but it's now team mistakes. So defensively, previously you would say like Mustafi was always the one that would fuck something up. Whereas now it just looks like as a team, they just can't defend rather than individually.
Yeah, and I saw that this is the first time they've lost 3 home games in a row.
Whatever.
I
didn't know that.
Oh my God, really? Ever?
Yeah. Well,
questioning it now. Questioning it now.
He's not doing his fact checking.
Back in the 1900s or something.
But yeah, so I mean, Wolves obviously were cutting them at ease at times. I mean, the second guy in particular was absolutely gorgeous. The way Daniel Podence just chipped the ball over Gabriel and then slotted it away. But I guess if I put a couple of questions to you guys, do you think that Arsenal's squad is good enough to get into the Europa League or the Champions League, whatever their target is?
I think it's good enough to get into the Europa League. I don't think it's good enough to get into the Champions League.
Why?
I mean, when you look at the other teams that potentially are going to be fighting for the Europa League, is it a really sort of bad... How do I put this? Is it a really bad inclination in that side, or an indictment of the side is probably the word I was looking for, to say that I wouldn't class them as favourites for being Europa League ahead of teams like Leicester, like Everton, even Southampton at the moment? And I just don't see anything from Arsenal that suggests to me that they're going to be dead certs for it.
Well, Leicester just lost to Fulham, so I wouldn't put your money on them either at the moment.
That's a very good point. Okay. Looks like I'm doing a lot of backtracking in this one.
They haven't really bought anything. Like Aubameyang, I mean, we were watching Match Today and we were like questioning if he's even scored this season.
I think he's only scored 1 goal, hasn't he?
Yeah, 1 or 2. But he's cutting a very forlorn figure up front. He looks very isolated.
Yeah.
At the start of the season when they signed Willian, I was thinking, do you know what? That's a cracking signing because Aubameyang is going to get so many goals from Willian.
He started the season really well.
Yeah, and it's just not happened. So what do you think constitutes a good season this year for Arsenal? Obviously, Europa League is going to be the minimum target, you would think. But where we are right now, they've got a very inexperienced manager. Should they just be focused on building rather than setting their sights on a particular finish?
I don't think so. I think their board would probably be furious if they didn't even finish in the Europa League spots. Because they have spent quite a bit of money, I think, this season as well, compared to previous seasons. Yeah,
and I agree with you. I think that it is a minimum you would expect for a club like Arsenal. Yeah. I'm just wondering whether or not they actually could do with not going in there, and then maybe that would force the club into a bit more of a harder reset, because it feels like that's almost like what they need.
Yeah, it's easy for us to say that, to be honest, but I think when you look at the financial side of things of not finishing in Europe and stuff like that, and then obviously it's harder to recruit players, because why is a player going to want to go to Arsenal? Players would start picking like Leicester's over Arsenal's just because they're in the Europa League or the Champions League. So you don't really want to get to that point as a club as big as Arsenal where players are joining Leicester instead of Arsenal.
Yeah, and then potentially the only time a player would choose Arsenal in that situation is if, they're going there for the money, which obviously you don't want players going there for that reason and that reason alone. Yeah. I don't know. Do you feel like Arteta's job is at risk in any way at the moment?
It depends what they want. I mean, if you're going to get a manager like Arteta, I feel like you've got to give him time. You can't swing the axe at him as soon as things start to go downhill, because if you're going for a manager as inexperienced as Arteta, you're not expecting to be winning the Champions League, the Premier League, within 2 seasons. I assume they're trying to build something.
He's like a long-term investment, not like a quick.
If they wanted, like a top manager to go in and start winning trophies, they'd have hired someone like Jose Mourinho.
Although it took him it takes him at least like a season. Even you say.
Oh yeah,
it's his second season.
Unless you go into a club like Man City or Barcelona or something, you're not going to win something in your first season.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, Arsenal will need to get their backsides into gear soon, otherwise they're going to be, cutting a drift from the top pack, because where they are now, they are as close to the relegation zone as they are the leaders. So things aren't looking too good for them right now. For Wolves, they started the season slow, which is what they've done in the past, but in very good form now. They've not scoring huge amounts of goals. I mean, they've not scored more than 2 goals in a game all season. But crucially, since the start of October, they've not conceded more than a single goal in any game. 4 clean sheets in 8, 1 defeat in 7, now 6th in the league. It's looking pretty good for them right now.
Yeah, but we've almost come to sort of see Wolves as a top 6 team, haven't we, really? It's kind of strange that they only came up for the Championship a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing well. Obviously, they lost Matt Doherty and Diego Jota in the summer. They do seem to have coped pretty well without the pair of them. I guess Portugal's got a deeper pool of talent than we realised. So, yeah, I think Wolves are going to be definitely in that conversation. We were just talking there about Leicester and about Everton potentially pushing for Europa League. And I think Wolves are absolutely going to be there come the end of the season as well. So, it's going to be an interesting fight for that Europa League spots. Right, let's move on to Chelsea against Spurs. Seemingly a case of 2 teams cancelling each other out here, would you say?
Yeah, I think it was a typical Mourinho game, wasn't it? I think he was very happy with the draw at that game.
I was very happy with the draw. I mean, I would have been happier with a win for Spurs, but
it's very much sit back, and if we can counter attack, we will do. If we can't, we're quite happy to just sit here and see out the game.
Yeah, it was a shame that we didn't get any goals. I mean, on paper, It was set up quite nicely because you've got both teams are in great form. Chelsea, very fluid in their attacking plays. Spurs, particularly dangerous on the break. So, when you put those 2 things together, that does tend to suggest that there's a recipe there for lots of goals. But whilst there were some good moments of play and there were some sloppy moments as well, it was just a bit wasteful in front of the goal, wasn't it, really, all told?
Yeah, I mean, there could have been quite a lot of goals in that game. It's just neither team took their chances. Another game like that, really.
Yeah, Spurs very defensively strong again, as you would expect now from a Mourinho team. Good to see Rodon getting his full debut. Obviously, Alderweireld out injured, but he looked good. Sissoko and Ndombele very strong in the middle. That seems to be the preferred partnership now in that midfield for Tottenham.
Yeah, I'm still not sure about Eric Dyer playing at centre-back, though, to be honest. A few times he tries to pass it out from the back and he passes it straight to a Chelsea striker.
Yeah, he's done that a few times, hasn't he? But he needs to just maybe realise that he's not capable of playing those 35-yard either needle passes. Just play 5-10 yards. Just give it to people like Ndombele who can actually do something with the ball. Stop trying to be Rio Ferdinand because you're not. And then obviously right at the death, Giroud probably had the best chance of the game. The sort of finish that he would normally take. He's normally quite reliable in those situations, having come on as a sub. But yeah, it just didn't connect with it at all, did he? It just sort of came off his ankle.
Yeah, I think if it maybe been on 10, 20 minutes earlier, he maybe would have scored that. I think it's one of those where you've just come on type thing. And yes, I think if he could go back and redo that, he definitely would do.
Yeah. Who would you say had the better game here? I mean, it felt like watching the game that Chelsea, on balance, probably created the more clear-cut chances. But I personally couldn't really separate the two of them on the day. I thought, they had good elements to both of their games.
I think Chelsea played better, but I think Spurs would be the happier of the 2 teams.
Yeah. Mourinho after the game said that all of his players are very unhappy in the dressing room, which he was alluding to the fact that that's that winning mentality in the Spurs team. So he's sort of talking up his Spurs team there. I'd be surprised if they're in that dressing room unhappy. I have to be honest. I think you're quite right. I think a 0-0 away at a free scoring team like Chelsea, I think that gives them a good platform to go on with for the rest of the season now.
Yeah, especially with the fixture list they've got with playing the big teams at the moment. I think, a win against City and a draw against Chelsea, they'd be quite happy with 4.
And then a win against Liverpool to come.
Yeah. I mean, we've said that these 2 teams are likely to be the 2 nearest challengers to Liverpool. Obviously, City had a big win at the weekend, which we'll talk about a little later. So, if they mount a push through the league, then they can come back into it as well. I mean, psychologically, it would have been huge if one of these 2 teams had actually won, because it potentially laid down a marker as being proper contenders.
Yeah, it would have been. Well, I don't know. I think it's more interesting that they drew because it keeps it closer together. But at the same time, it would have been better if a team had won. Yeah,
and still keeps Tottenham top of the league.
So yeah, I mean, and psychologically that's a big thing as well. The longer you spend at the top, the more maybe the players start to believe that that they can do something in the season. So yeah, pretty good. Right, blimey, we whizzed through that first.
Yeah, we have whizzed through it.
First section. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have more Premier League chat, and we're going to find out if I can claw back the deficit in another edition of Football with Fran. See you in a minute. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show. Right, let's talk competition. Let's talk our Christmas plans. So we are going to be running a competition between now, so effectively when you listen to this podcast, when it comes out on the 1st of December at 9 a.m, the competition will be live, and it's going to run until the 21st of December, which is a Monday night. The idea being that the competition closes just before we do the recording of the show, and we can reveal the winner live on the podcast. So the link is going to be on our Facebook, it's going to be on our Twitter, it's going to be all over our socials. It's going to be a case of you go on there, the more entries you want to do, the more you can. There's going to be lots of different options as to how you can enter the competition. The main one, though, is you need to answer a question, which I'm going to give to you now. So in the 2013 FA Cup final, Wigan miraculously won thanks to an injury time goal from Ben Watson. But who did they beat in the final? So 2013 FA Cup final, Wigan were victorious, but who were their opponents in the final? So make sure you put that answer in the appropriate part of the giveaway. That will score you the points. And if you don't answer that correctly, then you will not be entered into the draw. And the prize, I need like a drum roll, is going to be a replica shirt of your choice. So as long as we can source it, we will buy it and send it to you just in time for Christmas, hopefully.
Yay.
Depending on how quickly we get your answer, it might be just too late to get it into you by Christmas, but it will certainly be with you as soon as we possibly can after Christmas. So that's that. Did you guys see Twitter by any chance this week and what we were tagged in?
Nope.
So somebody has done a poll on Twitter and they've asked, what is the correct way of saying, would you say boo to a goose or boo to a ghost?
I did see that, yeah.
69 votes were cast. Somehow, 33.3% people said it's boo to a ghost.
I'm glad that it was as close as it was.
I can only think they were trolling because I've never in my life heard boo to a ghost. You're the only person I've ever heard say that saying thinking it's correct.
I thought you were trolling me when you're both trying to say that it was goose.
Oh dear. Anyway, thank you, Pete, for tagging us in that. That did bring a smile to my face when I saw that. And speaking of Pete, let's get on to the listener segment. So, Fran, what have our viewers been saying this week?
So the lovely Pete has said, Southampton versus United, what a comeback. Cavani seems to be a hero and a villain in the space of a few hours. What's your thoughts on his performance and the Instagram post? And then he goes on to say, Liverpool in the mud, on and off the pitch with VAR and Klopp venting his frustration to BT Sport. Does he have a point with the congested matches, or do we feel all the teams are in the same boat? In my opinion, I feel the EFL teams are worse off with 46 matches a season and cup matches from earlier rounds. Spurs versus Chelsea was a fair result given the form and stats heading into the match. Now, not Premier League related, but I'm interested to hear your opinion on the Darnell Fisher genital grab on Callum Patterson. Is this sexual assault, and was it worthy of a 3-match ban, the same as what Cavani may receive for a racist slur? So
there's a lot to digest there.
Shall we start with Cavani, what a comeback, hero and a villain in the same space? How do we feel about his performance and the infamous Instagram post?
I mean, I guess we've covered the hero part, haven't we? Talking about his performance in the game. The Instagram post is one of those ones where we do have to be a little careful what we say. My opinion of it is that, like most things that seem to rile people up these days, I always take things based on context. Now, I've seen the post, I've seen the translation and what it's supposed to mean. The context for me is that it's completely innocent. It's not done and meant to be an aggressive racial slur, and it's clearly a nationality or a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a thing that's South American countries do. Cultural, that's the word. Thank you, Dan. It's a cultural thing. Obviously, he's in the UK. He's playing for a UK team, so he does have to abide by our way of doing things, I guess, to a point. But I think, given the context of it and given how it was put out, I do think that it should, rather than throwing a ban at him, which I think would be a bit silly, I think it should just be a case of just, let's teach him, let's educate him, because education is the way in which, we get rid of all this shit in society. Just throwing bans around is not really going to solve anything.
Yeah, I do really sympathise because I think it's blatantly obvious he didn't mean it in a malicious way. He meant it as a compliment. And like you say, it's a cultural thing. Obviously, in South America, that is a term of endearment. But I would also say that you're not in South America, you're in the UK. And, if a British person was to go, and I've seen it on the news, a British person went to, I think it was Dubai, and they put their middle finger up at someone and they were thrown in prison. And you can't stand there and say, yeah, but we're allowed to do it in England.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
You're not in England. But I would also say that they're talking about giving him a free match ban. But the thing that happened with Bernardo Silva when he posted a picture of, I don't know, I think it was a cartoon character and compared it to Mendy.
That's right,
he got a 1-game ban. So I don't quite understand why one is a 1-game ban, but the other one is a 3-game ban.
Yeah, that's very true. And you would argue that Bernardo Silva's was much more on the nose with it was much more cut and dry, I would say, that case. Again, not meant in any kind of malicious way, clearly a joke that two friends are having. But as you say, there is, we do things a certain way. And if you're playing and living and, working in this country, you have to abide by those rules. So if they have to ban him, fine. But I hope that they also take the opportunity to educate as well, rather than just banning and then, and then writing it off and forgetting about it. Because nobody learns if you do that sort of thing.
Agreed. And then Liverpool in the mud on and off the pitch with VAR and Klopp venting his frustration. Does he have a point with the congested matches, or do we feel all the teams are in the same boat?
I mean, I was sort of going to get onto this later, but I guess we can cover it now. I don't know where I stand on this whole fixture congestion thing, because I totally understand where Pete's come from. I've seen him mention this before, in that the EFL teams have a huge fixture pile up throughout the season. They play more league games. They have multiple cup commitments, and often they're playing 2-3 times a week for extended periods throughout the season. So I do get that argument, but the flip side for me is that the Premier League is a higher intensity. I think that's a given. There's a lot more pressure that comes along with it. So psychologically, it can be draining on the players too. But also they have to contend with a huge amount of traveling around the world. So I think that it's difficult to compare the two, because I don't think they're quite the same thing. It's very different traveling a couple of hundred miles up the M1 or something like that to your game, than traveling thousands of miles, going through airports, going to hotels, going through all of the COVID stuff, and then coming back, having a day's rest, and then you're straight. So I can see where Pete's coming from, absolutely, but I don't think the two are quite the same to compare.
I do sympathise with what Klopp is saying, but I would also say that, everybody's got a 25-man squad, and I know everybody wants to use their best 11 every game, but you have 25 players for a reason. If the idea was to just use 11, you would just have 11 players. And also, he seems to act as if it's a massive surprise and they've just been given the fixture schedule, yesterday. Like, sure, every single club agreed to this fixture schedule. There's no hidden surprises. Everybody knew this was going to happen, and every club agreed to it. And
this is the point that Des Kelly was trying to make with Klopp, wasn't it? He was basically saying, "I'm going to make you're having a go at us, the broadcasters, but we didn't do this. This is you guys agreeing this."
Yeah. So, I can understand why potentially maybe the managers didn't have a whole lot of say in it, but at the end of the day, they should be going to their chairmans and stuff and moaning at them because they're the ones that have put them in this situation.
Yeah, and we all know why they're in that situation, don't we? So,
yeah, and I mean, obviously they've had quite a lot of injuries to key players, and I think that's why Klopp's the most vocal about it. But, you look at sort of teams United don't really have any key players out injured. So Solskjaer is quite quiet on the matter, but I imagine if we had Bruno and Martial and Rashford all out, I'm sure Solskjaer would be voicing his opinion a lot more. So, and I feel like if Liverpool didn't have all these key players out, Klopp would probably be quite quiet on the matter. So I think it's just one of those things,
situational, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there is Jurgen, as we know, is not a particularly good loser, is he? He doesn't like losing. He often will find excuses and try and deflect as to why the team lost, whether it's blaming VAR, whatever it may be. So I do think you have to take this with a little bit of pinch of salt, but I would commend Des Kelly, the interviewer from BT Sport, for sort of sticking to his guns and not allowing Klopp to kind of roll over and steamroll him during that interview.
Yeah, and then just the opinions on the Darnell Fisher, Callum Patterson incident.
Yeah, go on, you go first.
I was going to say, in terms of whether it's classed as sexual assault, there are smarter people in positions of authority that can make their mind up on that. Whether it's worthy or not of a 3-match ban, I don't know, because it's one of those things that probably doesn't have, you probably have to interpret that using a different rule. I very much doubt there's a rule in football saying if you grab someone by the bollocks, you get a 3-game ban. So they probably have to incorporate the offence into some other rule within football. So I don't know. The only thing I would say is that my manager at work is a Preston fan, and I'm fairly certain, I could be wrong in this, so don't 100% quote me. I'm pretty sure when I spoke to him about this, because this was Preston against Sheffield Wednesday, that he said that this guy, Darnell Fisher, this isn't the first time he's done this. So if that's the case, then I do think that a more lengthy ban should come in.
I don't know if I can compare it, but is it sort of almost similar to a Luis Suarez thing, with the biting? Is it any more or less serious than that, really? Because it is, although it's meant as, I'm sure, like a joke, if someone could take it the wrong way, and
it is a big invasion of privacy.
Absolutely it is. And I think for it to be classed as, as we said before we started, Dan, we've played football a long time on a lower level, granted, but we often have our, get a little bum pinch or, little tickle or grab my love handles, whatever it might be at corners. But when you look at Darnell Fisher's face when he does this, there doesn't appear to me to be any hint of, I'm just having a bit of fun.
There's a lot of concentration.
Yeah, hell of a lot of focus. So yeah, I don't really know on this one. I've not seen any further news on this to suggest that he's been given a ban or whatever. The way Peter's written is saying, was it worthy of a 3-match ban, would suggest that he has been given a 3-match ban. If that's the case, I personally think that is justified. I think that is a ridiculous thing to do. If it's not the first time he's done it, he's clearly not learning. And should he do it again, I think they should really throw the book at him, because I think in the world that we live in now, where a lot is being made about these sorts of things in social media, and people coming forward to talk about their experiences with celebrities, etc., then this sort of thing, when it's in the public eye, should be stamped out very quickly.
Yeah, agreed.
That was very unison.
We didn't even plan that. We weren't even looking at each other. Okay, thank you for your comments. So, Joe, Here we go. Tottenham are shit. They are basically Burnley, but with Kane and Son, and they won't win this year. If we had Giroud up front, we would win that game 3-0. Tammy is rubbish. Championship striker at best. We can still win the league, though. Also, Klopp needs to stop crying and focus on his team.
I mean, the Burnley comment about Kane and Son, I think that's just Joe being Joe. I don't think we take that one particularly seriously. I think Tammy Abraham, they did quite a long piece on him on Match of Day actually about his inability to score from crosses, and he sort of gets his body in awkward positions which prevent him from being able to properly connect with crosses. I wouldn't go as far to say he's championship striker. I think that's a bit far. I mean, he did score quite a few goals last year for Chelsea when they didn't have the likes of Werner and Ziyech and all that playing for them. So yeah, I think he does need to improve on his game for sure. Whether he's going to get enough of an opportunity at Chelsea to do that, or whether he needs to go on loan somewhere or even go to a slightly lower club in the Premier League, I don't know.
But Frank Lampard is playing him. Like the only way.
Not a lot though. He's not really starting him that often, and I don't know if he'll be at Chelsea too much longer. They have quite a lot of players that they're sort of either loaning out or on the fringe, like your sort of Loftus-Cheeks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Tammy has started the last two games. I mean, he definitely started against Newcastle when they won 3-0. Obviously, he started last week. Before that, I couldn't say how much he'd started. But I think ultimately it was Tammy Abraham was not the only one who was wasteful in that game. I think that's very important to say. Ziyech missed a wild shot, and there were others who had good chances that were saved. So I don't think Tammy Abraham can be blamed for that game being 0-0.
And then just Klopp needs to stop crying and focus on his team.
Yeah, I guess we've covered that already.
Kind of covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the league is still very wide open. So I mean, I think you could call I don't think I could call it at the moment which team could win, because that like Liverpool dropping points against Brighton that's the great thing about the Premier League. Any team can beat any team.
Yeah, and it's very much a bollocks. I've just gone onto Sky Sports website and got a spoiler about what the table score is. Fuck's sake! I was just going on there to have a quick look at the table because when I looked at it earlier, if you look at first place down to 15th is separated by 8 points. So it's crying out for a team or two to put a couple of wins together and try and pull away, a little bit like we'd spoken about with the relegation team. So, it's a very exciting, very topsy-turvy and lots of twists, I'm sure, coming in the league.
Yeah.
Excellent, and we also did like your suggestion, Joe, about adding a team of the week section in your show. So we're going to take that away and have a little chat and discussion about how we can potentially implement that into the show. So, despite all your negativity about Spurs, you did come up with a really good idea at the end.
Thanks, Joe.
Oh dear. Right. So let's get back to some Premier League chat, shall we? So let's talk about West Brom against Sheffield United. Massive result for West Brom this, in particular with tonight's result with Fulham beating Leicester. Brighton picks up another point in the weekend as well with a good draw against Liverpool. And with the start of the season that both of these two teams have had, this was a must win for one of them. A draw sort of did neither team any good here.
Yeah.
It was almost like a cup final game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, Sheffield United, some of the chances they missed, they're such gilt-edged chances. You just cannot miss those sorts of chances at this level.
No, it's just really it's like a completely different team than last year. I really don't know what's happened to them. Yeah,
it's a shame because they have had some poor performances this year. I don't think that's unfair to say. But they weren't poor in this game. They had 39 shots on goal during this game, 22 for Sheffield United. I think it does speak volumes for the confidence of both sides in front of goal that only one goal was scored from those almost 40 shots. And it was one of the most average shots of them all as well, which sort of came off this guy's shin and rolled through a crowd of players into the bottom corner. So, yeah, I mean, we've spoken about the lack of goal scoring in their start of the season, and the stats are now really painting a very bleak picture for Sheffield United. So they're the only side not to have kept a clean sheet this season in the league, despite conceding less goals than Liverpool over the course of the season so far. They're only the third team in the top flight history, not just Premier League history, but all of top flight history, to have just 1 point or less after 10 games. Incidentally, the other two, West Brom in 85-86 and Manchester United, who didn't have any points in 1930 and 1931. I guess Ole Gunnar Solskjaer must have been in charge then as well. They have had some very tough fixtures, but they still played Villa, West Ham, Fulham, West Brom. Arsenal and Leeds have been a bit inconsistent. So I guess you could look at those and say, could we have nicked a point there? But if you're not picking up points against those sorts of teams, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, that West Brom game was a massive must-win. They've still got, teams like United and Tottenham and stuff like that to come, and I just don't see them. I don't see where they're going to get any of these points from now, to be honest, unless it's draws.
Yeah, next three, incidentally, is Leicester, Southampton, and Man United. All of which are, all right, Leicester lost tonight, but you would expect a reaction from them next time out.
Yeah.
So all of those are in very good form. So if Sheffield United cannot find the back of the net, you struggle to see where they're getting points from, as you say, Dan.
And how much longer do you think Chris Wilder's got?
Well, that was what I was going to come to next. If you're someone who likes a cheeky bet, I would suspect the odds are getting quite long for Chris Wilder to keep his job for much longer. The trouble is, you look at what the job that Chris Wilder did last year, and you look how well he did. Can you honestly say, with respect to Sheffield United, with the quality they've got in their team, who comes in and improves them?
Well, I think that last season is the only reason that Chris Wilder is still at that club, I think, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that team, I think they're almost certain, and especially at this stage of the season. I know we're only like 9 or 10 games in, but to have 1 point from 9 or 10 games, I can't see them staying up, even though it is only 9 or 10 games in.
Do you think this is crying out for Big Sam to make a comeback?
Is it maybe beyond Big Sam's capabilities? I don't know.
Well, he's never been relegated, so I wonder if he looks at this and thinks, you know what, I'd like to keep that record that way, thanks.
Yeah. Maybe a Neil Warnock.
Yeah. He's where's he at right now? Is he at Middlesbrough?
No, yeah, he might have just gone there, actually.
I can't remember. I know he was at Middlesbrough recently, but I can't remember if he still is. So, yeah, but for West Brom, it is a massive win, as we said. It was an unconvincing win, but psychologically, that's a big boost for them. And they were briefly outside the bottom three. Fulham obviously winning tonight puts them back inside again. But psychologically, they can now think, right, we got that win. We've now got to build on this. They've got Palace and Newcastle up next, which are very winnable games for West Brom before a trip to Man City. So they've got to get points from those next two games, haven't they?
Yeah, and I feel like West Brom have looked like the win was coming a lot more than Sheffield United have looked like they're going to be winning a game soon. Especially with the game against Chelsea, where they were, although they were, was it 3-0 up and then drew 3-3? I think they were 3-0 up. But still, to score 3 goals against Chelsea, unfortunately, they sort of chucked it away. But it has been coming, I think. And hopefully this can be like a kickstart to their season.
Yeah. So keeping in terms with the bottom of the league, so Man City against Burnley, we asked in previous episodes where the goals were coming from Man City, and obviously Mahrez has been listening. He's taken it upon himself to just deal with it himself. So an impressive hat trick, but it was made rather easy for him, wasn't it, at times?
Yeah, Burnley just were non-existent, weren't they, really?
Is Mahrez a bit undervalued at City, do you think?
I think so. I think when you've got that many superstars at one club, and obviously he doesn't seem to play a lot, does he? And every time I see him play, he seems to do really well. I'm surprised he doesn't play that much. Yeah,
I think he's one of those players that, he is a bit undervalued. And I know a City fan, whether he's a listener to the show or not, I'm not sure, but I'm sure I spoke to him previously, or he may have commented on something that we shared where he said that he would be quite happy for Mahrez to be sold so that they could fund a new striker. Now, whether that's, Mahrez is just the unlucky one who misses out so they can get a new striker in, or whether he actually doesn't think that Mahrez is good enough or not, I don't know. But I think Mahrez has proven on more than one occasion that he is more than capable of being a regular for that City team.
Yeah, and I think with Mahrez, he can play in quite a few different positions. He's quite versatile, which I think is good to have in a player, especially with the quality of Mahrez.
Yeah, he's a bit of an Iron Robin, isn't he? Very, very one-footed. He loves coming inside. And Burnley were obviously put to the sword with these 5 goals. Could have been 6 as well if it wasn't for VAR. But some of the game plan is just straight out the window. When you concede a goal in 6 minutes in the manner that they did, they gave the ball away. It was a poor pass out of defence from, I think it was Tarkowski. And then 2 or 3 passes later, you're a goal down. And then the second goal, like, you cannot go to sleep like that on a throw-in and let Mahrez get 10 yards behind your defence. I mean, that's just, at this level, that's criminal.
Yeah, I think the problem with City scoring so early as well is a team like Burnley, their game plan is to sort of defend and, try and nick that 1-0 win. But when you go 1-0 down so early, it almost forces you to completely change your game plan, especially in the 6th minute.
Yeah, so City firing themselves back into the top half might be a little jolt to get their season back into life. I think they had Aguero back from injury as well, which would be a big positive, assuming he can stay fit, of course. Guardiola said, I saw a little quote before we started recording, that he's not enjoying football at the moment. He says football has lost that specialness that comes with all the fans and stuff. I wonder how many other teams and players are feeling like this.
I would agree with them, especially with VAR at the moment as well. I think it's just a bit.
You just question everything.
Yeah, it just saps, especially with goals and that. I think we've said it before. When a player scores and then everyone's just stood there looking at the linesman and looking at the ref, there's no real celebration anymore because you just can't celebrate.
Yeah, unless you've put one in the top corner from 30 yards where there's going to be
unless you're like 100% sure that it's. But even the where they sort of let it run and then they go through and score and then half an hour ago was offside and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, in 1984 his foot was offside, so we're going to go back and play that game.
And it's by a hair. It's like, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah. Interestingly, I was reading I can't remember who the name of the referee is who does the VAR review, if you like, on Sky Sports News. I'm going to say it's Dermot Gallagher, but I could be wrong. So he was talking about what VAR could do to improve how everyone is feeling about it. And in particular, he was talking about the offside rule. Now, we've obviously seen on a couple of occasions this season where like somebody's armpit hair is offside and the goal and the goal is ruled out. Apparently, this is obviously very strict from FIFA and from UEFA and who the other rule makers, IFAB and whoever that lot, that basically, you draw a line, it's off or it's not. And it's there, it's black and white. Obviously, we know that's not the case because we get these incredibly close decisions where we get these strange decisions that we can't understand. So in the Dutch league, they've actually made the lines thicker, which gives the attacker more of an advantage. So when you get these really close decisions, often it's classed as onside because that line is that much thicker. Therefore, he's onside. Do you think that could be a potential fix? Or
yeah, I think so. But I think what we want to see in football is goals. So if there's an advantage to the attacker and there's more likely to be more goals involved, I think we would rather see like 5-4 games rather than 1-0 with 5 goals ruled out for offside.
Yeah. And the other thing he suggested as well was actually just doing away with this, we're going to draw the line from the furthest part of your body. Just said, just do it from the feet. Just keep it simple. Just do it from the foot because strikers obviously bend their runs and arc their runs to get in behind. So their upper half in that moment will often be further to, towards the goal and where the offside potentially is than their feet will be. So if you do the line from their feet, again, you're encouraging those inside runs. Whereas now strikers might be thinking, do you know what? I need to leave it a yard because if my fingernail's offside, it's going to get ruled out.
Yeah, but I think the whole thing with like you're offside if you point to where you want the ball and it's just pathetic. I think, most players are going to score with their potentially with their heads, but you're running with your feet. So I do believe that if your feet are offside, then you're offside. If they're not, then you're not.
Yeah. Or just fucking get rid of the entire thing.
Side.
No, well, if you get the offside, that really would make it interesting. But as far as Burnley go, going back to the game, the sinking feeling now must be getting quite strong. I mean, in their last 7 meetings between these two, I'll give the viewers at home a chance to guess what the aggregate score is. No, you're wrong. It's 28-1. In the last 7 meetings, Man City, the aggregate score is 28-1. I mean, it's incredible. City are only the second side in Football League history to win 4 successive home games against the same opposition by 5 or more goals. Unfortunately, the stats keep getting worse. I mean, Burnley have lost 7 of their last 10, having only lost 1 of their previous 15 before that. They obviously did beat Palace last time out with a 1-0, but then you have to go back to the 3rd of October to find the last time that they even scored a goal. So it's a little bit like Sheffield United. It's making pretty grim reading, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's another sort of team where you're like, you can't see where their next win's going to come, really.
Yeah, I mean, with Sheffield United and Fulham, and also with West Brom as well, you are at least seeing signs of fight from them. Results obviously haven't been there, in particular for Sheffield United. But I'm not seeing much from Burnley at the moment to suggest that they're really up for this fight.
No, I mean, I wouldn't put Fulham in the same category because I feel like they've got a lot of attacking players that can
score goals. It's just they seem to make a lot of defensive mistakes. Whereas with Burnley, I just don't see them as a team that are going to come in and score lots of goals.
No, I mean, and in fairness, like Sheffield United, they've never been that sort of side, have they?
Yeah,
so,
in fairness, they're not an attacking team. They're both defensive teams. But unfortunately, if you're going to be a defensive team, you've got to be keeping clean sheets, and they're not.
Yeah. Well, we've spoken about how Sheffield United and Burnley potentially have been hurt more than most by the lack of fans in the stadium. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Sheffield is going to be in tier 3, I think, in that part of the country. Not sure about Burnley, possibly the same. If, for example, they're allowed to get, say, 2,000 or 4,000 fans in to the stadium next year, is that going to be enough to give them the boost, or do you think that they need a full house?
I don't know. I find it very. I mean, I don't know what the capacity of those stadiums is, but like a Stamford Bridge, which holds like 50-odd thousand. I don't know how much 4,000 fans is how much of a difference it's going to make. Especially, I don't know how far they're all going to be sat away from each other. But I don't know. I don't know how much of a difference it will make. Yeah, I'm sure it will make a little bit of a difference, but I can't see it turning a Sheffield United loss into a Sheffield United win.
And is it just going to be home fans, or is there literally like out of the 4,000?
I don't know, actually, I never thought about that.
Will there be like 3,500 home fans and like 500 away fans?
I assume it's just be home.
Yeah, I would think so too. I'd be amazed if they start letting people travel around the country.
Well, that's what I thought, but then that's a bit shit for the away team, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, home teams would always have the advantage anyway.
Yeah, but just in the sense
usually there'd be, I don't know, 30,000 home fans and 10,000 away fans.
Yeah, but in this case, there'd be 4,000 home fans and like 10 away fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, the away fans being your subs,
the manager and your subs.
Management staff. Yeah.
But it would then go back to potentially the home advantage, which no team has at the moment, and maybe that is where those sort of lower teams are missing out on with that. Those fans cheering them on with those home games.
Yeah, I mean, and Turf Moor has historically been a very good place, a good hunting ground, if you like, for Burnley themselves. And it's obviously been a tough place for a lot of teams to go. But at the moment, you're just not afraid of those sorts of places at the moment, are you? You're going there as effectively a game on a Saturday afternoon for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like playing every single game at Wembley, isn't it? There's literally no, apart from the team knowing the pitch inside out, there's no other really sort of advantage.
So, I mean, the other thing I just wanted to touch on quickly as well is I don't know whether or not there's a real psychological impact, but I just wanted to throw it out there as a little debate topic. It is easy to write off the teams at the bottom for being crap. But I mean, let's get it straight. Burnley are shit. But just how big of an impact does being down at the bottom like psychologically play? I mean, we've played football, Dan, for a long time. We know that, we've been part of a team where you've lost more games than you've won. You get that sinking feeling. You look at the fixtures and you're playing top of the league. You've been scoring for fun. And then the first goal goes in and it's that here we go again feeling, and all of a sudden that kind of energy and motivation is just kind of drained out of you. Now you transform that into Premier League with all the pressures that come with that. It must be incredibly hard to maintain the same levels in a game, when you're down in the bottom and desperately trying to seek points.
Yeah, and I think obviously it's very different for them because it is literally their livelihood, and there is a massive difference between being in the Premier League and being in the Championship. So there must be so much pressure on their shoulders, being down in that position. And imagine being a Sheffield United player and you look at where you are on the table and you look at you've not won a single game. And I don't know, how do you get yourself up for a game against Man City and Chelsea and stuff like that? I mean, you almost go into it just knowing you're going to lose, and it's hard to get that sort of mind frame.
It's almost like a subconscious thing, isn't it? Like, you actually, you don't even realize that you've actually thought that way. You might go into a game and be bang up for it. And then all of a sudden the game starts, you don't see much of the ball. The first goal goes in, and all of a sudden, without realizing it, your head's down, you're feeling undermotivated. All of a sudden it's not that you're not trying as hard, but you're again, subconsciously, you're not trying as hard. You feel like you're giving everything, but actually you're not, because you've just been drained a bit. Your passes are away, your shots aren't quite there. Maybe you don't track back quite as hard as you did. And those things can be massive in a Premier League. That you get punished for those sorts of things.
And you wouldn't have. I'll take the Tottenham West Ham game. You wouldn't have players like Lanzini hitting them from 20, 30 yards out for a team like Sheffield United, because they don't have the confidence to sort of pull those shots off. Whereas last year they probably would have done.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting take. I saw it somewhere on Twitter and just thought, it's something you don't always consider. It's so easy just to look at the results in isolation and just assume that their team's shit, they're rubbish, they're getting relegated, where actually it's potentially a bit more than that. There's a lot of psychological stuff at play.
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of it is ability, but I do think psychologically it has a massive impact.
Yeah. Right, so let's. I just wanted to quickly chat. I know we've spoken about Klopp and the Des Kelly stuff, but it wouldn't be a Kickabout episode if we didn't talk about VAR and some of the decisions. So I just wanted to touch on the Liverpool game very, very quickly. 2 penalties, 2 goals ruled out for offside. Are any of them wrong in your opinion?
No, all fine with me.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's move on then. I was hoping that would spark a bit of a conversation, but okay, that's fine. Yes, okay, that's really thrown me down. You've absolutely killed me there, I'm not gonna lie.
Right. Do you disagree?
The only one I was going to talk about massively was the Robertson one, because it's one of those ones where when you see it live, I thought that he got the ball. I don't think there was anything. And it was such a delayed reaction from Danny Welbeck. And then you watch it back again and it's, I don't know, it is a penalty, but sometimes I think that if that's somewhere else on the pitch, does it get given, do you think? I don't know. I can't get my head around it.
I think if he'd gone down straight away, I don't think anyone would question it. But I think because
for some reason he sort of ran for a bit and then he just suddenly fell to the floor. It was very dramatic. I think that's why everyone's sort of looking at it and like, oh, is that a... But, he does, he misses the ball and he boots Welbeck in the foot. And if Welbeck did go down straight away, I think everyone would be like, yeah, it's a penalty.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about it. There's just something about it that's got me a bit weirded out, confused. And I agree it is a penalty. What about the first penalty, Neil Maupay? He's not having a great time of things right now, is he?
No.
It's all gone a bit downhill from being the hero against United to being the villain in the same game, and he seems to be carrying on that.
Yeah, it was. I like that he tried to pick out the corner. I'm assuming that's what he did, but yeah, you've got to at least hit the target, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Right then, let's move on. It gives me another chance to play this. Damn the stat, man.
As if you made that.
That's not going to get boring. I don't care. That's not. That's staying for a long time. Right, Dan, go ahead and do your stats.
Yeah, I'll read it out again. So Bruno Fernandes is the 4th Manchester United player to score in 5 consecutive away games in the Premier League. Can you tell me who the other 3 are? So the first one was in 2003, the second in 2013, and the third in 2017.
2003, I'm going to take a stab and say Thierry Henry.
What, for United?
Oh, did you say United?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. Okay, if it's United, 2003, that's 17 years ago. That's probably a bit too early for Ronaldo. So I'll say Van Nistelrooy for Man United 2003. What were the other 2 again?
2013 and 2017.
And which teams?
But all United.
All United. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah,
2000,
Man United.
2013. Ooh, 2013. I'll go Rooney for 2013.
Okay.
And 2016, was it, did you say, or 17? 2017. I will go with 3 years ago. I'll go with Marcus Rashford. That might be a little bit too early. I'm not sure.
Okay. So 2003 was Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Get in.
Well done. 2013 was Robin van Persie.
Okay. Yep.
And 2017 was Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Ah. Okay. Well, I get 1 point, so that makes it 6-4 in the quiz overall. Yeah. So that's fine.
All right.
He missed that. He didn't get that comment. Did
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
I said that 1 point makes it 6-4 in the France game. So.
You need all the points you can get, mate.
Yeah, how dare you? Right, it's time for this.
Welcome back, everybody, to Football with Fran. Dan, if you can hear movement in the background, Dan's just moving away from me, so he can't see the questions. So,
week for me.
It's huge. It's huge. Running on the theme of last week and how much you both hated the true or false question, we're doing true or false questions this week.
Oh man,
love it. So as usual, I'll go to Chris for the answer first, and Dan, you write yours down. Okay. So I know you're not, cheating. That's the word. I forgot the word. I know you're not doing something. There we go.
No, that's very aggressive, whoever that was.
It's on his water bottle. He's getting himself psyched, ready for the quiz. Okay, so question number 1. Remember, true or false? It took Cristiano Ronaldo 27 games to score his first Champions League goal. True or false? Remember, this is a podcast, so I need words from you both.
A quick game is a good game and all that. Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
Dan, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, go on then, Chris.
I'm going to say false.
Ooh,
right.
I've gone for true.
Oh, God. Dan, you're right.
I love how every time I get one wrong and Dan gets one right, the genuine disappointment in Fran's face.
Because I just can't put up with... You're just so emotional after. I feel so guilty afterwards.
27 games to get his first Champions League goal.
Yeah.
That makes his current haul of Champions League goals all the more impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, question 2. Well, phrase 2. The phrase "park the bus" arose when Jose Mourinho was forced to park the Chelsea team bus after the bus driver fell ill. True or false?
I would so love this to be true. See, this is now toying with my emotions because I want it to be true and I don't know whether I should go with it just for that reason.
Go for it.
I can't imagine that's a thing. I'm going to say false.
Right. Dan?
I've gone false as well.
Yeah, you're both right. Very much false.
I'm pretty sure he needs a license. He can't just hop in the driver's seat and start driving a fucking great big coach.
Right, question 3. Singer in Irish boy band Westlife, Nicky Bryn, played for Leeds United before moving into music. True or false? Very confident here, Dan. You're whacking the answers out very quick.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea.
I guess it's easier this week.
That's what happens when he's on Google on his phone, I guess.
Alexa.
I'm going to say true.
Oh, I've gone for false.
Oh, God. Chris smashed it.
Really? Play for Leeds?
Yeah.
Wow.
I that wasn't a complete guess. I'm sure I've heard somewhere because I think that he may have played in one of those Soccer Aid matches.
Yeah.
And I think it was something one of the commentators threw out. So that was where I was going with that.
Fair enough.
Okay, true or false? Sir Alex Ferguson managed the Scotland national team. Chris?
False.
Dan?
Yeah, I've gone false.
It's true.
Really?
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought he went straight from Aberdeen.
Yeah, me too.
Well, this is what this website is telling me, so...
Well, either way, we both said the same thing.
Yes,
so it
at least you were
doesn't matter
both
too
wrong. I should maybe Google that afterwards.
Well, unless it was maybe for like one game or something like that, and that's how they've caught you out.
Yeah, like caretaker
Okay.
manager or something.
Yeah.
Next one. Liverpool legend Kenny Dalglish is known as King Kenny because he is related to the British royal family. True or false?
False.
I've
Dan?
gone false as well.
Yeah, it's false.
Thank God. I never guessed that was true.
Well done, everyone.
Yeah, me too. Imagine Kenny Dalglish on the throne.
Question 6. Frank Lampard has scored more Premier League goals than Thierry Henry, Robbie Fowler and Michael Owen. True or false?
I'm going to say true.
Yeah, I've gone for true.
Yeah, true.
Lovely.
If that question had been just Thierry Henry, I might have said false. But when you said like Robbie Fowler, I was like, no, he's definitely scored more than Robbie Fowler.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Former Brazil and Barcelona star Ronaldinho spent time in prison after being found to have used a fake passport. True or false?
You done, Dan?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, it's true.
It's even Stevens at the moment.
I hope you've got another tiebreak question.
Well, I'm worrying slightly about that, if I'm honest.
Beckham doing ballet.
Right. So this is the last question, but obviously if you both get it right or wrong, then I'll have to find something else. Brazil icon Pelé once starred in a Hollywood movie alongside Michael Caine and Sylvester Stallone.
Dan, you done?
He's done, yeah. Chris?
True.
I've gone for true.
Oh, for God's sake, you've both got it right.
Yeah. I think it was called Escape to Victory. I think that was what it was called. I think there was a few other. I think Bobby Moore was in that as well. There's a lot of ex-footballers in that. It was quite interesting. So last week after our show, I had a message from a regular listener who basically said that an idea, if we get in this situation again, would be to have a question whereby we could go a bit like when we did like the clubs and the years they were founded, go sort of nearest to. And I'll be honest, I completely forgot to tell you, so I'm telling you now.
Thank you. Okay, here's a question. With 3 titles each, which 2 teams have won the most European championships?
Sorry, say that again.
Have I already asked this one?
No.
Oh, you're looking at me like With 3 titles each, which 2 teams have won the most European championships?
As in countries or?
Yeah,
team.
that's Euros, isn't it?
Yeah, Euros.
Euros. I don't know. Have you asked that before?
No, I don't think so.
I think we've had like a sort of
Similar, but not this
question.
one.
Which two teams have won
Well, obviously neither of you got the
Euros the
answer.
most?
Which two teams have won it how many times? I'm really confused.
With three titles each, which two teams have won the most European championships? Even if one of you gets one right, you're going to win.
Okay. Okay, I've got my two.
You got your two done?
Yeah, I'm not that confident, but I've got
No,
two.
me neither.
Right. Okay, Chris?
I've gone for France and Germany.
Oh,
What have you gone
I've
for?
gone for France and Spain.
Oh, for God's sake. The answer's Germany and Spain.
Oh.
When you said France, I was like, yes, Chris has won it. Happy days. He's not going to cry this week. We're good.
Oh my God.
This is so frustrating. Right. Just chat amongst yourselves for a
You're
second.
going to edit this out?
Maybe cut this a bit, Chris.
Yeah, I can edit this out. That's fine.
I wish you told me that suggestion earlier, Chris.
I know. I'm so sorry.
What are the chances of us getting one of those right and neither of them getting the same one?
Frustrating. Let's put it that way.
So it was Germany and Spain, did you say?
Yeah. And I said France and Spain. You said Germany and France.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. When Fran reacted to that answer, I was convinced Dan had got them both right.
I've won it. I was so disappointed when I win.
No, I'm not. But you've heard Chris's voice. Bless him. Right. Okay. Next one. Messi wore the number 30 at the start of his Barca career and is now number 10. What other number has he worn for the club? That is actually.
Oh, that's a dirty question. That is.
Well, you replied. Okay, whoever gets closest to the number
nearest
wins.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, whenever you're ready.
I'm gonna go number 9.
Ooh, I've gone for number 11.
Dan's won it.
Get in there.
It's number 19.
I should have gone higher. I should have gone higher.
Oh no, Chris.
Well, I best get down the gym and get ready for Mankini season. That's what I'm saying.
They open again in 2 days, so you're
I
good.
know. Dan, this is your punishment for battering me in this quiz. You got to get me in shape, just in case I have to wear a Mankini.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, thanks
God
for
for not being
playing,
kind to me.
guys. So it's 7-3 to Dan, unfortunately.
So I've now got to win 7 of the next 10 quizzes to win.
I think you can do that.
I think we need to have a little chat, Fran, about these questions.
I'm trying. Well, if you got some answers right, Chris, we would not be in this position.
Yeah, but Dan's beating me on like 2 tiebreakers now. This is. Yeah, I should have gone high for that one. I should have. I was. Yeah, that was dumb. Fuck it. Right. Oh, it gets to me so much. It's so annoying. I'm so competitive. Oh dear. Right. Anyway, thanks very much, you guys, for tonight. We have just about kept it within usual time frame. So yeah, we will be back next week. We will have further details on what our Christmas schedule is going to be as well. But we are planning on doing a couple of extra episodes over Christmas to cover off all the games. Hopefully we can do it face to face, but chances are it's probably going to be on Skype, as we mentioned earlier. So, and then yeah, do check out our social media, and we will have all the details of the competition. And good luck on that as well. So we'll see you all next week then, I guess.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.